Eyewitnesses of Jesus' Resurrection. How many people saw Jesus Christ after his resurrection, but before his ascension? Our task is to examine the bare minimum of these eyewitnesses. The only tool we need is the Bible. We'll count carefully how many people saw Jesus in his resurrected body. All my scripture passages come from the 1984 NIV Bible. Watch this box. I'll keep a running total of the minimum number of people that saw the risen Christ. We'll make sure we don't count anyone twice. And in the scripture passages, I'll highlight and count only the first time an eyewitness is mentioned. We'll look at all the passages in biblical order. We start with Matthew. He mentions Mary Magdalene and another Mary and says that Jesus met them. So we add 2. Our running total is now 2. Matthew then mentions the 11 disciples. Judas was no longer with them, of course. And it says that they saw him. So we add these 11, making our total 13. Mark also mentions Mary Magdalene and 2 others who were walking in the country, and then he mentions the 11. The only new ones are these 2, so we add 2, bringing our total to 15. Luke talks about the 2 people on the road to Emmaus who saw Jesus. He names one of them, but we have to assume that these 2 were the same 2 mentioned by Mark, so we don't add any. Luke then mentions the 11 and those with them, and Jesus stood among them. We have no idea how many those with them means. The minimum would be 2, so we'll add 2, making our total 17. John talks about Mary Magdalene and the disciples, but we've already counted all them, so we can't add any. John tells us that a week later Thomas was with them when Jesus appeared. Thomas wasn't there a week earlier, but these 11 disciples have already been counted, so we can't add any. Our total remains at 17. In the next chapter, John tells us about Jesus appearing to 7 of the apostles, but these men were all part of the 11. Since they were already mentioned, we can't count them, so we add 0. In Acts 1, Luke tells us that Jesus appeared to his apostles and gave many convincing proofs that he was alive, but we've already mentioned and counted these apostles, so we can't add any. Finally, in 1 Corinthians 15, Paul mentions Peter and the 12. There were actually only 11, which we've already counted. But then Paul says that more than 500 of the brothers saw Jesus. This is counting only the men, not the women and children. Then it says he appeared to James. This is Jesus' brother James, not James the apostle. Well, more than 500 has a bare minimum of 501, but some of the men were already counted. To keep with our bare minimum, we'll assume that all 15 men we counted previously were among these 500 brothers. So I subtract 15 and then add 1, Jesus' brother, which means I add 487. Our grand total is now 504. So at a bare minimum, at least 504 people saw Jesus' resurrected body between his resurrection and ascension. We're not counting people like Paul who saw Jesus after his ascension. The number is likely much more than this, especially since women weren't counted in that 500. The actual number is not known, but we conclude that at least 504 people were eyewitnesses of Christ's resurrection. What do we conclude from all this? That Jesus really did rise from the dead. Happy Resurrection Day. Thank you for watching this video. Please subscribe to my YouTube channel for more videos.